A 9-year sentence, a guilty verdict from the Russian judge in the courtroom there. The maximum sentence that Brittney Griner could have received was 10, so we're getting a 9-year sentence. Her lawyers have said they will appeal. You mentioned President Joe Biden. He's calling this an unacceptable verdict, and he's calling on Russia to release the two-time U.S. Olympic champion immediately.
In previous videos, we have discussed traveling overseas, that you should take the time to know the rules. When you're packing your bag, know what's in your bag that won't get you in trouble overseas. Now, we just heard a couple days ago, WNBA's Brittney Griner was found guilty of smuggling drugs and having marijuana, or it's a vape cartridges with marijuana in it, in her bag. Now people say, well, why smuggling and all that? That would, under Russian law, that's what it would be considered. She's been sentenced to 9 years in a Russian prison for her crime. Now, people will say, like, oh, they did it on purpose or something like that. No, she had a prescription. She admitted, she apologized and stuff like that, but she did break the rule. And most people don't realize, that certain things are not legal here, not there, but you have to understand there are laws even here. Not everywhere allows you to have those vape cartridges with marijuana in them. There are certain cities and statutes that have them banned. They're not legal everywhere, and they're not legal federally either. And you say, well, that's not fair, to this whole situation. But understand. And people will say, well, we'll probably get her back on a trade. Should she be returned to trade? There are others. Why her specifically? Do you know there are other people on there? And we have another video coming out on there. There is a school teacher nobody is talking about, who was abused by her boyfriend. She tried to defend herself, only ended up scratching the boyfriend with the knife around his nose area, and she's in prison. And from the pictures, she was beaten badly. But because what both sides, and we'll go in detail on the next video, she was pushed to sign paperwork that she shouldn't have been signed. In other words, she was screwed, and now she's serving time in prison. But also the other half, and you have to put this into perspective. Yes, she had marijuana, and they say, oh, they just do it because of drugs and stuff like that. But understand this, and there's a great little article from Reader's Digest, which came out on May 20th of this year. And I recommend you go check out this article. It's a short article. 9 common medications that are banned in other countries. See, the thing is, not every drug that you would consider illegal, like cocaine and marijuana and all that, of course those are bad, but there are regular stuff, over-the-counter drugs. And this is why we tell you, pay attention to the rules of the country you're going to visit, because you could end up, in jail. And we're not talking places like Russia or China or North Korea, the Middle East. We're talking about insignificant places like Spain and Japan and France and Italy. Going to those countries, you could be arrested for carrying something in your bag that's illegal. One of the things on there, and it says in the article, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And I like how this was put. It sounds like something out of a movie, but traveling the world with some of your most used medications could land you in a massive fine or even jail time. The medications most often restricted are controlled substances such as opiates, stimulants, psychotropic medications such as antidepressants and antipsychotics, says Claudia Ziegans, MD, Associate Medical Director at Global Rescue, a travel risk and crisis respond firm providing medical advisory services, medical evacuations, and security extractions to travelers around the world. However, even medications such as asthma inhalers and insulin are restricted or prohibited in some countries. My wife is on insulin. What would she be taking if she couldn't use the insulin? There are other drugs out there. Now, here's one for you. Sudafed, Vicks, common Vicks that you would see right in your local pharmacy, or Sudafed, common cold treatments are illegal in Japan. If you're traveling to Japan and have a cold, leave the over-counter medications at home. Common cold treatments like Sudafed and Vicks that contain an ingredient, excuse me if I can't pronounce this correctly, pseudoephedrine, are banned in the country. Most people don't realize that. They don't realize that, there are many different things that on there. Another thing is codeine and tramadol. Certain pain medications like codeine and tramadol, two common brands used in Ultram and Conzip, are banned in countries throughout the world. These are controlled drugs and require a prescription and could put you in hot water outside the United States in countries like Greece, Japan, and Saudi Arabia. Carrying these medications could result in arrest. As you can see, these are the things that will get you in trouble. Benadryl. Yes, that's right, Benadryl. Benadryl can get you in trouble. If you're used to popping a Benadryl for allergies to help you sleep on a plane, talk to your doctor about alternatives. If you're traveling to Zambia, diphenhydramine, the active ingredient in this ingredient, allergy med, is banned there. In Japan, you're only limited to 10 milligram capsules. Another is Adderall and Ritalin. Yes, that's right. That stuff that keeps the kids calm, so you can get things done. If you rely on the medications for your attention deficit disorder, you have to leave Japan off your bucket list. This country has a zero tolerance policy for methamphetamines and amphetamines. The active ingredients in many of these ADD drugs, even if you have a prescription or a note from your doctor. This is true in Saudi Arabia. See, the thing about it is, and this is Japan, Japan will never let that drug back in their country after what it did to a lot of its people back after the Second World War. They made it a number one priority to make that drug illegal. There are alternatives. That's available, and you have to check with your doctor.
This treatment is fast and effective and doesn't use harmful drugs. Watch closely as I apply treatment to the first child.
I want a horse, I want a big brown horse with a fluffy black tail with a diamond tiara.
Sit down and study!
If you're traveling on there. This is why you heard situations like this, certain similar drugs like this during the Olympics, that some of the Olympic players, that basically they were taking some of these types of drugs to keep them calm, during the ceremonies and the events. And basically they were illegal in places like China. Another one is Ambien and Intermezzo, sleeping medication, stuff that helps you to sleep, was against the law if you're traveling in Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Singapore. In some places you need to obtain a license to bring in your Ambien. So you have to, if you're going to fly to a certain country and you have to get a licensing, you got to do it months in advance. This is not something you could do overnight. These are just some of the things. I mean, there are many others. You can look this up. This is just a quick list of medications that Reader Digest put together, but there are many others. I mean, you have to be careful. And, you know, when you hear the whole story with Brittney Griner and you feel sorry for her, and as I do, I feel sorry for her. Should she be there? No, you know. But she shouldn't have done what she did. You know, she's gone back and forth. She knows it's illegal there. Come on. If you're not knowingly, you know, you go through passport customs back and forth. And if you get, I mean, even if you come back in this direction, understand, how do you get past the TSA? I don't know. Because you're carrying that and you said, oh, I have a prescription. Does the TSA allow that to get through? Because the TSAs are federal. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but think about that for a minute, you know. And there have been people arrested at airports with, you know, the vaping oils on there. It's not uncommon, but I'm just curious to understand that basically, if someone's coming back into the U.S. and they have that in their luggage, you know, how they're getting back in on that. And you say, so, well, she has a prescription. What's it for? What it's for? You know, really, there are other drugs you could use that possibly will replace what she was using it for. But you know, this is the thoughts, and this is the problem that I have with legalization of marijuana. You know, they're just throwing an empty check out to allow, you know, just broad it. Medical marijuana, I'm okay with. If they do enough research and they find out that there are some things that it will help with, it should be prescribed by a doctor and handled by a pharmacy, not to what they want to build out, like especially in New York here. Already they're taking advantage of the situation. They have these clubs, and those clubs are getting a cease and desist order because basically they haven't signed off the dotted line to who is going to get the license for these marijuana stores. And, you know, they're violating the law to this. You know, understand, we've gone through many problems when it comes to legalizing certain drugs. You've already seen what happened with opioids and the crisis we're having now. What's going to happen in the next 25 to 30 years down the line with marijuana? Because nobody has a hold on how to keep, you know, to regulate the strength of this drug. There is no regulation. They say there is, but there isn't. Because you hear it every day. Oh, we got this strength and that, and this kush and that. You know, like I said, I have nothing against medical marijuana if it's proper and properly prescribed and properly. I mean, I have my situation with my doctor, who I have Eliquis. I'm using Eliquis. It's a blood thinner. And I have to take a test every, 6 to 8 months. I have to go through a scan of my leg to make sure, to see if I have to discontinue it or continue it or up the dose, which I doubt they're going to up the dose. It's a drug that, you know, like aspirin, you know, it's supposed to help with the blood flow. But it has to be monitored. You can't just give someone on there. And it's the same thing with the aspirin. Same thing with the aspirin. You know, you give aspirin to somebody and tell them they have to take it once a day. But then the doctor says, stop taking it for right now until we have you check. And this is aspirin over the counter. You know, people do get sick from aspirin. It is possible. So monitoring a drug that's supposed to be medically prescribed is what needs to be done. You may say, well, that's part of the greed. Is it? No. Your doctor needs to care for you. Okay? Something can happen, and we've seen some mysterious things have been coming up lately. some heart problems, some mysterious deaths, you know, things that weren't diseases that weren't around for a long time are starting to crop back up again. You know, we have issues right now. And for people to say, well, she was only using vape cartridges. Well, respect the law in another country. If where you're at does allow it, go ahead, puff away. But if you go somewhere where it isn't allowed, you know, you're asking to get arrested. So let's see what's the next level that we're going to deal with Brittney Griner. You know, like I said, you know, this is a situation, and the worst part about it is that the way the government's been handling it also, and that's the worst thing about it. You know, I saw when A$AP Rocky got arrested in Sweden for whole that thing. You know, the previous administration handled it well and got, you know, just got on top of the government and said, okay, that's our people, let them back, you know, let them leave the country, we'll take them back over here. And that's all it needs. It needs a stern talking sometimes, you know. But these guys, they're pushing it aside. They say, oh, we're gonna trade off some guy, some merchant of death situation. We shouldn't even be doing that. If we arrested a guy for crimes against our country, he should stay in jail if he hasn't been put on death row. And you know, you need to negotiate to the point where you say, listen, this is our people. Yeah, they did commit the crime. Let them go. Let them return back to the country, and they'll never return back to your country again. And that's plain and simple. Simple as it is. So comment below freely. Let me know what your thoughts on this. Subscribe, like, share. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.